Can God change your life in the next 30 minutes? I believe you're watching right now because God has something special for you. Join me for Jewish Voice and you'll discover how Bible prophecy is coming to pass before our very eyes and why you need to stand with Israel. You can play a role in God's end-time plan. Find out how on Jewish Voice. Shalom and welcome to Jewish Voice, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Jonathan Bernis, and today I'll be interviewing one of the most prominent experts on the conflict in the Middle East. He's an author, a speaker, and host of The Watchman, seen on TBN and many other Christian networks. Please welcome my good friend, Erick Stakelbeck. Erick, welcome to the program.
Jonathan, great to be back.
You know, it's been too long, and I wish you could have been here live in the studio. We had to do this over the internet, just given the reality with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. But it's great to see you again, even if it's not in person. Yeah, now I know you haven't been able to travel to Israel in recent months, but you're very up to date on what's happening there. Talk about the condition of Israel right now. What's Israel experiencing during this whole pandemic? Because they've been hit relatively hard, although they've minimized their death toll, but they've been hit very hard. They're a small country. And just give us an update on what's been happening in Israel.
It's remarkable. Although I have not been able to get on the ground like I normally would in Israel, Jonathan, on a frequent basis, I'm interviewing Israelis on Skype and on Zoom. And places like Sheba Medical Center in Israel, not far from Tel Aviv, are just setting the tone globally in terms of their coronavirus treatments, the way they're handling it, just groundbreaking research and innovation. And Sheba Medical Center in Israel is actually working with medical centers in the United States to come up with a vaccine. So pretty remarkable what this tiny nation, the size of the state of New Jersey, that's Israel, remarkable what this tiny nation is doing, punching far above its weight in every area.
Yeah, it is a God thing. So I've been talking to Israelis almost every day, and there is pretty severe economic fallout. We're very concerned at Jewish Voice about the senior citizens, those below the poverty line already, that need basic money for basic foodstuffs and medicines. We're trying to help them with that. But overall, they're recovering relatively well. Talk about security concerns. In the midst of this pandemic and the focus of attention being on coronavirus, what's happening in terms of Israel's security with Hamas, Hezbollah, the West Bank, Gaza, what are we seeing?
Yeah, Jonathan, two things to point out here. Now, number one, the Israel Defense Forces, they have had to reposition, in a sense. They've had to help this fight against coronavirus on Israeli soil, which is kind of a new position for the IDF. Obviously, they're used to being engaged on the battlefield and against terror, but they've had a new battlefield with this pandemic, and the IDF has been very involved in helping the Israeli citizenry and government fight against the pandemic. That's number one. Number two, of course, the Middle East never sleeps. Thankfully, the God of Israel never sleeps nor slumbers, but it seems that Israel's enemies, the pandemic hasn't done much to shut them down. Now, Iran, for instance, has been hit very hard by COVID-19, but Jonathan, they continue with their plans to encircle Israel on all sides through proxy, always acting through proxy, namely Hezbollah to Israel's north and Hamas to Israel's south in Gaza. Now, Iran is also attempting to establish a base in Syria right along the Golan Heights on Israel's northeastern border. So Syria, Lebanon, Gaza. But Jonathan, my mind and my eye, I should say, my focus, and certainly the focus of the Israel Defense Forces right now is to the north. There is a conflict coming. I call it the Great Northern War, where Israel is going to be forced to face off against the forces of the Iranian regime and Hezbollah in Lebanon and in Syria. It's a question not of if, but when. And that's Israeli Defense Forces officials telling me that, Jonathan. When I interview them, they know that the showdown is coming with Iran and Hezbollah to the north. Hamas, a serious danger to the south, of course, but Hezbollah, Another level, Jonathan, in southern Lebanon, some 150,000 rockets and missiles pointed at every inch of Israel. And of course, with full Iranian backing, a grave threat that Israel eventually is going to have to deal with decisively.
Well, let me stay on this northern issue, this coming northern war, for a few minutes. So Iran has been hit very hard by the coronavirus, very hard. For per capita, one of the hardest hit. And yet we're not hearing anything about Iran's activities under this fog of coronavirus, which is the center of attention. What you're saying is Iran is still, even though hard hit, is still working and setting up their proxies to come against Israel.
Absolutely. Two things here, Jonathan, that you would think would be major setbacks and perhaps make the Iranian regime reconfigure its goals, its activities on the ground in the Middle East. Number one, that was the takeout of Qasem Soleimani, the terror master, by the United States at the beginning of this year. And number two, of course, COVID-19 has hit Iran very hard. Unfortunately, the Iranian regime has not budged 1 inch in their actions, in their goals to destroy the state of Israel, even though Israel has hit Iran very, very hard in Syria, where Iran, again, is attempting to establish a major presence with military bases, a base to ship weapons on to Hezbollah to be used against Israel. So Israel, in particular, the Israeli Air Force, has hit Iran very, very hard in Syria. The Israelis say, look, this is a red line. We will not let you establish a base in Syria from which you can strike us. You've done it in southern Lebanon with Hezbollah. We won't let you duplicate it in Syria. And Iran is saying, we're here to stay. So clearly, Jonathan, Israel and Iran are on a collision course to the north in Syria and southern Lebanon.
It's amazing. Even in the midst of coronavirus, the chess pieces are being put into place. Iran's really taking advantage of the situation. I know in the midst of this COVID pandemic that it's hard to think about other people in other places. We're dealing with so many issues right in our home. I know that, but we are still believers and followers of the Lord, and Israel does matter. And I'll tell you something, as you bless other people, as you focus on the Lord and what's on His heart, it will really lessen your focus on how bad everything is. Listen to less news, more truth of God's Word, and Israel is still very much alive in God's plan and important and needs to be for all of us. I have some resources that I want to get into your hands this week that will help you understand why Israel is important for you as a believer, if you want to see Jesus come back, and what's going on over there. I wanted to do something very simple, so I wrote a very simple but thorough book called A Lasting Peace. This is a historical, biblical, and prophetic lens on the crisis in the Middle East. So I want to get out that book to you. I think it'll really help you understand it. We also have an accompanying DVD with teachings, as well as a study guide. So if you can become an expert on Israel overnight, and with the extra time you have at home, you'll be really engaging in something that's important to the heart of God. Now, we need you to help us to help Israelis in need. They may be handling COVID well, but economically it's a crisis. And the country is loaded with senior citizens already living below the poverty line, Holocaust survivors. We are mobilizing help to get them food, to get them medicines. We have over 70 partners in Israel. We need you to get involved. I want to ask you to become a monthly partner with Jewish Voice. We'll also send you this beautiful Going Up to Jerusalem. It's a gorgeous painting. It's just our way of saying thank you for helping us to help the people of Israel in this great time of need.
As you are hearing today, the crisis in the Middle East is not a political issue. It's a spiritual one. Rapidly unfolding events in the region will shape the future, not just of Israel, but also our entire world. Our goal at Jewish Voice is to keep you informed and up to date about the truth concerning God's plans for you and for the Jewish people. Rabbi Jonathan's book, A Lasting Peace, is the result of years of study and observation. In it, he combines historical, biblical, and prophetic teachings to help you understand what's happening now and how believers should respond to events we are witnessing every day. Jonathan wants to get this book into your hands today as you help us in supporting elderly men and women in Israel who are struggling during the pandemic. As you give a one-time gift of $40 or more, we'll not only send you A Lasting Peace, but you'll also receive the companion study guide and DVD. In this video, Jonathan goes further into the subject of God's plans for peace and how it will affect you and your world. You will also receive this Stand with Israel keychain that declares your support for the Holy Land and its people. Don't miss this opportunity to receive all of these resources as you support Jewish Voice Ministries with a one-time gift today of $40 or more. Your support today will provide the funds needed to continue our work in Israel, especially right now as we work to bless elderly men and women who have been shut off from the world because of the pandemic. Jonathan is encouraging you to join him as a monthly Shalom partner today. Your continued monthly support is vital in providing the ongoing care and supplies for those struggling in Israel. As you join us with your monthly support of just $30 today, you'll receive the resources already mentioned, and Jonathan will include this beautiful framed picture, Going Up to Jerusalem. This large canvas print of the ancient city of Jerusalem will be a treasured keepsake in your home or office. Join Jonathan today as a Shalom partner and receive all these resources for your ongoing generous support of just $30 a month. Your gift today is changing lives, meeting the physical needs of individuals who so urgently require our help, and also making it possible to share the love of Jesus in a very real and personal way.
Right now, Israel is in a crisis, a financial crisis. COVID has all but shut down the country. I want to ask you to help us to help them, especially senior citizens and Holocaust survivors. They need our help now. Please get involved.
Call our 800 number now and let our representative know what level of giving you would like to participate in. If you prefer, you can always choose to give online at jewishvoice.tv. Or you can simply text JVMI to 474747. You can also donate by mailing your gift to the address on the screen. Thank you for your generous support of Jewish Voice and for making a difference in so many lives through your sacrifice. Now, let's rejoin Jonathan and Erick Stakelbeck.
Well, I want to pick back up with you, Erick, and go back to Iran in the north. The greatest threat that Israel and the Middle East region, and not just the Middle East region, but one of the greatest threats the world still faces, is a nuclear-capable Iran. And clearly threatened, and I believe they're threats, that when they have the capacity, they will launch a nuclear weapon against Israel. Are we any closer to that? Have things shut down? What's the status as far as you know?
A very interesting development, or a series of developments, Jonathan, this summer. There's been a series of mysterious explosions inside Iran, where several of their high-profile nuclear sites and ballistic missile sites have been struck. I mean, there's been explosions. They've been destroyed in some cases. A string of incidents. That's been a very interesting development this summer. But we're looking at the nuclear program as the greatest threat, Jonathan, obviously, out of Iran, but also keep a close eye on their ballistic missile program. Now, they have the largest ballistic missile stockpile in the entire Middle East. And the big threat right now is something called precision-guided munitions, or PGMs for short. Funny name, but everyone needs to know about this. What these are, these PGMs, precision-guided munitions, they are missiles with greater accuracy. They do exactly what the name says. They are precision guided. So Iran is attempting to supply Hezbollah with these highly accurate missiles, which would enable them with pinpoint accuracy to target Haifa, to target Tel Aviv, to target sensitive sites inside Israel, to target Ben Gurion Airport, God forbid.
Yeah.
These precision-guided munitions or precision-guided missiles would be a game changer for Hezbollah if they were to get their hands on them, and Iran is attempting to transit them into southern Lebanon and Syria as we speak.
Erick, we're obviously headed to a showdown at some point. Do you have any sense how close we may be to this?
We are walking a tightrope right now in the Middle East. Here in the West, we've been understandably distracted by civil unrest and a global pandemic, but there are events unfolding in the Middle East right now that are going to affect everyone, no matter where they live. And the biggest one, to my mind, is this northern conflict that is coming. And who else gets pulled in? We know Ezekiel 38 and 39, that great battle of Gog and Magog, which is coming down the pike as well, Jonathan, the likes of Turkey, another dangerous player interjecting itself in the Middle East right now. So we are walking a tightrope right now, and it's a complete powder keg. Keep an eye on it.
We are. Erick, let me switch to some, what I think is at least a ray of hope, some good news. A deal recently signed, a peace agreement with the UAE and Israel. And it seems that Egypt was supportive. Jordan played a role in this process. What does this mean? Is this truly good news? Why did it happen? And what does it mean?
Jonathan, it is great news. It's absolutely historic. The United Arab Emirates becomes only the third Arab nation to strike a peace treaty with Israel following Jordan and Egypt. Now, 10 years ago, the prospect of a peace treaty between Israel and the Saudis, unimaginable, even 5 years ago. But here's the two factors, Jonathan, that have brought these Israel together with the Sunni Arab nations. Number one, we've been talking about it, right? The Iran threat. Iran not only, and the Iranian axis, not only threatens Israel, it threatens Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, the UAE, the Gulf states. It's a threat to the entire region. So strangely enough, Iran has played a major role in bringing Israel and the Sunni Arabs together. That's number one. Number two, Israel is a blessing to the world. Israel's amazing high-tech, medical, scientific innovation, a Silicon Valley in the desert. The Arabs are finally saying, they're blessed. Maybe we can follow that blueprint and be blessed as well. Israel, how do you do it? Can we get some of that? Can we work with you? Maybe it will rub off on our economies, on our high-tech sector as well. So the Iran threat and the economic prospects have brought them together without a doubt.
My goodness, what a change of history. Everything is moving at such a fast pace. This convergence, we're clearly in the last days. Just one more thing I want to touch on. We just have a minute left. You're seeing the alarming rise of anti-Semitism globally. It's not just anti-Zionism. It's not just the commitment of countries still to push the Jewish people into the sea because of the land, but a global rise in anti-Semitism. What does that mean? What are you seeing and what does it mean?
There are folks right now who want to isolate Israel and cripple it economically. They call it anti-Zionism. It's just a fancy modern name for good old-fashioned anti-Semitism. So we have violent anti-Semitism rising. We have diplomatic, I guess you would say, economic anti-Semitism rising. But here's the great thing. Israel continues to not only survive, but to thrive and bless the region and bless the world and really act as a light unto the nations. God's hand is on the land of Israel, and no weapon formed against Israel is prospering. Amen. Hey, when God says in Genesis 12:3 that he will bless those who bless Israel, curse those who curse Israel, he meant what he said. There are no gray areas with God when it comes to Israel. It's very black and white. What part of everlasting and forever do people not understand when it comes to what God says about his covenant with Israel and the Jewish people?
Erick, thanks for ending with such great news, such hopeful news. It's good to see you again. Thank you so much for being on the program with me today. Now is the time to pray for Israel. Some bad news. The good news is that God is protecting Israel, prospering Israel, and answers prayer. And we have been told to stand with Israel. Be vocal, be bold. We need that relationship with Israel, and we need you to pray. Friends, I know that what's going on in the Middle East and Israel is confusing, and you may still be wondering, why is this important to me? And the answer is, it's really important to God. It's on God's heart, and he's told us as his followers that Israel needs to matter. I want to help you cut through all the misinformation and understand why Israel is so important and how this plays into the last days. I've written a book called A Lasting Peace. I want to sow it into your life this week as you stand with us. Also a DVD with teachings connected to the book, A Lasting Peace. And we also have a study guide, so you can become an expert in a short time. And then when you watch the news, you'll understand who the different players are, but more importantly, understand Israel's prophetic role in the last days and the return of Jesus to this earth. It does matter because you're not a bystander. You're supposed to get involved. Speaking of getting involved, Israel is in a crisis. Although they've handled the COVID pandemic well from a medical perspective, they've been hit hard financially. No tourism, a huge senior citizen population living below the poverty line, which includes Holocaust survivors, which are so dear to our heart here at Jewish Voice. You can help. For $30 a month, you can become a Shalom partner. It's just $30 a month. We also want to say thank you by sending you this beautiful painting going up to Jerusalem. Just our way of saying thank you for standing with us, with over 70 ministries that we partner with to get clothing, food, medicines, basic essentials to senior citizens and Holocaust survivors in Israel in great need. So I really invite you, I encourage you, become a Shalom partner with this ministry for $30 a month. Hey, we are going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to be praying for the many needs that we've received here at Jewish Voice. We're going to agree with God together for a breakthrough, so don't go away.
As you are hearing today, the crisis in the Middle East is not a political issue. It's a spiritual one. Rapidly unfolding events in the region will shape the future, not just of Israel, but also our entire world. Our goal at Jewish Voice is to keep you informed and up to date about the truth concerning God's plans for you and for the Jewish people. Rabbi Jonathan's book, A Lasting Peace, is the result of years of study and observation. In it, he combines historical, biblical, and prophetic teachings to help you understand what's happening now and how believers should respond to events we are witnessing every day. Jonathan wants to get this book into your hands today as you help us in supporting elderly men and women in Israel who are struggling during the pandemic. As you give a one-time gift of $40 or more, we'll not only send you A Lasting Peace, but you'll also receive the companion study guide and DVD. In this video, Jonathan goes further into the subject of God's plans for peace and how it will affect you and your world. You will also receive this Stand with Israel keychain that declares your support for the Holy Land and its people. Don't miss this opportunity to receive all of these resources as you support Jewish Voice Ministries with a one-time gift today of $40 or more. Your support today will provide the funds needed to continue our work in Israel, especially right now as we work to bless elderly men and women who have been shut off from the world because of the pandemic. Jonathan is encouraging you to join him as a monthly Shalom partner today. Your continued monthly support is vital in providing the ongoing care and supplies for those struggling in Israel. As you join us with your monthly support of just $30 today, you'll receive the resources already mentioned, and Jonathan will include this beautiful framed picture, Going Up to Jerusalem. This large canvas print of the ancient city of Jerusalem will be a treasured keepsake in your home or office. Join Jonathan today as a Shalom partner and receive all these resources for your ongoing generous support of just $30 a month. Your gift today is changing lives, meeting the physical needs of individuals who so urgently require our help, and also making it possible to share the love of Jesus in a very real and personal way.
Right now, Israel is in a crisis, a financial crisis. COVID has all but shut down the country. I want to ask you to help us to help them, especially senior citizens and Holocaust survivors. They need our help now. Please get involved.
Call our 800 number now and let our representative know what level of giving you would like to participate in. If you prefer, you can always choose to give online at jewishvoice.tv. Or you can simply text JVMI to 474747. You can also donate by mailing your gift to the address on the screen. Thank you for your generous support of Jewish Voice and for making a difference in so many lives through your sacrifice.
In the short time remaining, I want to focus on prayer. Prayer for you. Focus on the truth that where two or three agree on earth is touching anything, it shall be done. So will you agree with me? We have so many hundreds of needs that have come to Jewish Voice. Prayer for new jobs, prayer for healing, prayer for various breakthroughs against fear and against isolation and depression. And we just know that God is watching and cares. I know that. I hope you do too. And by faith, we're going to appropriate these answers to prayer right now. And so just join with me, Lord, in the name of Yeshua, in Jesus' name, we bring these many requests before you, and we speak life into households that are in darkness and experiencing death. We speak healing. We speak divine provision, financial provision. We speak restoration. I command fear to go, depression to go, isolation to go. Lord, let us look through the eyes of faith and see the end of this, the light at the end of the tunnel. I declare in the name of Yeshua, in Jesus' name, you will get through this and experience the joy and peace of the Lord. Amen. Amen. If you'd like more information about our ministry, we'd love to hear from you. It's very easy. Just log on to our website, jewishvoice.tv, and there you'll find helpful resources, and then you'll actually be able to fill out a prayer request form that goes on to us, and we will pray for your need by name. You'll see the work that you're helping us to do in places all around the world, reaching the Jewish people and their neighbors. We love hearing from you, and I want you to know that we here at Jewish Voice care about you, and more importantly, God loves you. I want to thank you in advance for your support of this ministry and remind you as I close to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. They need our prayers now more than ever. A special thank you to Erick Stakelbeck for joining us today. And until next time, this is Jonathan Bernis saying shalom and God bless you.